Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our virtual event, Future-Proofing Your Customer Journey. My name is Georgia Scott, and I am Head of Solutions Marketing for Adobe. So we all know that brand loyalty is won on experience, but with a million different steps that customers might take and the trillions of ways that they might take them, it seems an almost impossible feat to deliver what every customer needs and wants at the right moment. On top of this, we need to keep a finger on the pulse and react to social, economic, and political changes in real time. And so, with this in mind, we've designed this event to bring together experts who will uncover how to find the right talent, technology, and culture to create an agile customer journey that will set you up for success no matter what comes next. So, today we are lucky enough to be joined by an incredible selection of guests. First up, we have leading business futurist William Higham. William uses his experience to offer insights into consumer trends, to watch out for in the coming years, and also how to be ready for what comes next. Then we've got a fabulous panel. We're going to be joined by Eve Kolosova, who is Head of Marketing at Henkel, Ian Drake, who is Head of CRM and Loyalty at Domino's, and Simon Sepagan, who was until recently Managing Director of Customer Experience at NatWest. And then last but not least, we have Sharon Broad, who I think is suffering some technical difficulties right now, but she will be joining us, and she has some fabulous experience in leadership roles across marketing, digital, and CRM, in-house and agency side across some fantastic brands. But before we start, I have a few housekeeping bits to run through with you all. So today, as you can see, we're using a platform called Livestorm. This is a webinar, which means that you will not be able to turn on your camera or unmute yourselves. However, there is a chat and Q&A function that you can use to post your comments and questions. We most likely won't have time to answer your questions live today. However, please do submit any that you have, and we will absolutely come back to you in writing. So now, without further ado, please welcome our first speaker, William Higham.
Hi, Georgia. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for joining us. William is one of the UK's leading business futurists. He helps leadership teams prepare for an uncertain future by creating engaging new strategies for what he predicts their customers' future needs will be. And today, William will use his experience to share consumer trends to watch out for in the coming years and how to be ready for whatever comes next. So, William, no pressure. Tell us what the future holds.
Right. I'm going to give you an entire breakdown of the future in about 50 minutes. Fantastic. Well, that's exactly as you said, Georgia. I am a business futurist. So, yeah, my job is to sit down with leadership teams from everybody from Amazon to Walt Disney to help them understand what the world is likely to be like over the next 5 years, what their customers are going to think, do, what their needs are going to be. And that's most important because really, then I'm going to help them find ways to satisfy those needs and create strategies, marketing strategies, product strategies, and so on that will actually chime with those consumers. And it's a great job. And one of the reasons it's a great job is because I get to go to quite a lot of conferences, and through that, get to meet some really interesting people. And this lady is one of those, Sally Boondock. And I met her. She runs the BBC's Big Business Breakfast show, The Briefing. And, not very nice for her. She has to get up at 4 o'clock every morning in order to do it. But she does get to interview loads of CEOs from across the globe, all kinds of CEOs. And I met her at a conference in 2019. And I remember sitting down and chatting to her and asking a question which I kind of always ask people is, what's keeping you up at night? And I said, well, yeah, what's keeping all those CEOs that you talk to up at night? This is 2019. And she said, every single person that I'd interviewed, every single business person she'd interviewed over the last year had used the same word, and that word was uncertainty. And that was in 2019. Goodness me. Since then, what have we experienced? Even more uncertainty. So little did we know in 2019, when uncertainty was beginning, how crazy the world was going to get. We didn't know there was going to be a pandemic. We didn't know the political situation was going to be so charged, whether it's in America or Germany. We didn't know there was going to be an inflationary crisis, that suddenly the Cold War was going to be getting hot again. And I think this is the issue. This is the world we're going into now. The next 5 years, I do not see it becoming a more certain world, and the customer and the consumer and the citizen does not see it as becoming a more certain world. In fact, the customer is very much understanding now that they're in the middle of and looking forward to a very volatile world. And that's a scary place if you're a citizen, if you're a consumer. So if that is the case, if that's the world they're going into, how are they going to behave? And I believe there are three things they're going to look for. They're going to look for control, they're going to look for comfort, they're going to look for community. Control, a way to somehow take a bit of personal control if they can. Comfort, ways to relax, to calm down, to switch off. And community, a way of getting support from those people around them. And that's what I want to spend the next sort of 15 minutes talking about, really, is looking at those three needs, what they mean, why they're coming up, how they manifest, and what you can do from a marketing, from a consumer experience, user experience point of view. So let's start with control, taking back control. And it's no coincidence I use the phrase take back control. It was a phrase that was used during Brexit, the Brexit campaign. And interestingly, it's interesting, if you look back at kind of the polling around then, the poll originally for Brexit wasn't doing too great. You know, back in the day when the campaign first started, they came up with this slogan, take back control. And you can see when they introduced that and PR'd it, just support rocketed just from that one slogan. It really chimed with people. And I think that's because people have been feeling, even at that point, they were starting to feel that the world was slightly out of their control. You don't have much control over what's now a very globalized world. You know, what happens in Wall Street or what happens in Wuhan within a few seconds can impact the rest of the globe. So, you know, and it used to be that perhaps you could rely on your governments to do something about it, or the media or big business to do something about it. But now, because things are so globalized, it's hard for those individual countries to do anything. But also, the customer doesn't trust those people. Customer faith, customer trust in institutions of all kinds has crumbled in recent years and doesn't show any signs of picking up. Over 50%, as we can see, of Britain's German Spanish distrust all institutions, that's government, media, big business, NGOs. And almost half of all Europeans feel the same. So if you've got an uncertain world, if you feel you've got very little control over what's going on globally, and therefore, you know, what's going to happen to you in terms of your job or in terms of your health, what do? Well, what you do is you try and take little bits of control where you can, and control, even in the smallest areas, becomes really important to you. And we've started to see it already. You know, no longer do we rely on doctor to make us well. We now go to Dr. Google instead. Over half of all Europeans now, first thing they do when they feel bad health symptoms, they go online, they Google them, they see if they can fix them themselves. And that is up from 55% now, up from just over a third in 2010. So already those sorts of things are going up. This lady here's got a Fitbit. Again, as I have somewhere on here, 6 billion of us are set to have them by 2027. Again, that's all about taking control of your personal health. We're taking control of our finances as well in terms of price comparison sites, in terms of fintech and online banking. We're preparing ourselves. We're trying to prevent the worst happening. And we now feel empowered to make those decisions. And in fact, we want as much information to enable us as consumers to make those decisions as we can. McDonald's is an interesting example. If you walk into any McDonald's now and you look up at the menu board, they've got the calories on there. And you'd think, that's ridiculous. Why would they put the calories on fast food? Surely that would put people off. But no, they were smart. They were the first people to do it within a restaurant, a fast food restaurant. They did it because they knew it empowered people. People can make a decision. If you give them the information, they can start making a decision. You know, which of these things will I have? If I have this, I can't have that. So you're enabling people. So all of these things, what people are trying to do to take charge. And another way they're trying to take charge is to get some knowledge themselves, to get some information, to get some data, some education. And, you know, that's why we're seeing more and more people watching TED Talks, why we're seeing people watching all these TV shows, and why there are all these TV shows with celebrities or skillebrities trying to learn things from ballroom dancing through to pottery, to baking, whatever it is. All of this is about people learning from other people, trying to find out what we can do. You know, the local pop quiz, why has that come up? We want to show off, we want to find out information. So we want to try and take little bits of control where we can, and we are going to do that. That's very important to us. So how can you as a brand help them do that? One of the ways to do that is to offer people choice of platform, choice of product, whatever you're doing. People, if they've offered a choice, they feel they've got a little bit of power, just a little bit, to choose between A or B. Gives people a little bit more power where they can have it. To any sort of choice, what platform they can come to your service center on, whatever they can do, give them some sort of choice. And personalization. I've just finished a major report on the future of the user experience. And one of the biggest things we found there is personalization is what customers want. And it's likely to be the biggest reason for people providing data. We've seen this across the board, across the globe. People increasingly want things to be personalized towards them. Why? It gives them that sense of power, that they've got something that's theirs. And they, as you see, 48% of them will actually spend more if their consumer experience is personalized. So choice, personalization, give them as much data, make your data transparent so they can make smart choices, because they're going to find out eventually anyway. So make sure, help them out if you can. I mean, one of the reasons that places like Spotify and Netflix are doing so well is because they offer all of these things to people. It does give people choice. Things are personalized, or they can be customized, whichever. So either it's automatically done or you can do it. So all of those kinds of issues, do what you can to give your customers a feeling of empowerment. And also do offer them advice. Whatever business you're in, whatever sector you're in, the people within your organization have a lot of knowledge within that. I work with the automobile company, big global one. And within the kind of the car showrooms there, one of the things we're talking to them about is this idea of finding little sessions, maybe advice workshops, because they've got people in those showrooms who know so much about cars, about driving, about repairing cars, about road safety, about sustainability. So they can run little workshops for people, big workshops, and they can help people on that. You can offer advice on your website, whatever you can do. You look at a company like Fender, guitar company, Gibson and Fender have always been the two big guitar manufacturers, and they've always done about the same. Recently, over the last 5 years, Gibson has gone down and down, eventually went into receivership about a year ago. Fender, however, going from strength to strength. Why? The guitars are about the same, the quality guitars. What have Fender been doing for the last 5-6 years? They've been focusing on teaching people to play guitar. A lot of the information on their website is about learning to play, giving people advice. And once you've learned how to play and you've done it through Fender, well, what guitar are you going to use when you play? So anything you can do to offer people advice, to give them control is great. Okay, so control, number one. Number two, comfort. We're actively trying to go out and do these things. We're loving all of these things that we can do, taking some sort of control. And wherever we can, we'll do that as customers, as citizens. But goodness me, it's exhausting. It's exhausting trying to take control. It's also exhausting trying to deal with this very uncertain world. If you don't know what's going to happen, if you don't know whether AI is going to take your job tomorrow, or whether you're going to have enough money to pay the mortgage tomorrow, if you don't know what's going to happen, that's exhausting too. And so sometimes you need to switch off. And I think this is really going to prove very important to people over the next 5 years. Again, we're already starting to see it. This people are starting to be happy to spend in order to have an easy time, a quiet life, a simple life. So, 81% of European consumers say they'd pay more to get a better consumer experience. Almost half are happy to pay more for a service in order to save time. People are paying premium. We have this couple here who are at a cinema, paying for premium seats in a cinema just to be able to relax. Yes, it costs more, but now we're focusing on our mental health, on self-care. We're actually putting that as part of our kind of value proposition. We're thinking more about that now as customers. Yes, times are hard and money is tough, but we're making sure we put a little bit aside to give ourselves that space, because we know we need that. So we are going to see people kind of calming down. And look at all of these kind of trends we've been seeing recently, the quiet quitting trend, the people just sitting back a little bit. Apparently amongst the young, it's now called 85%, not quiet quitting, doing not quite 100%, just stepping back. TikTok have got the soft life trend, which again is about making sure that you focus on, your personal time, making sure that you have time, you sort out your work-life boundaries. The Buy Land movement in China, again, about normally it's been very much about making sure you do your best, but now it's sitting back. And LOMO, it used to be FOMO, fear of missing out. Now it's LOMO, love of missing out. Just you go off and do that this weekend. I'm just going to sit and chill. So that's going to be important to people, making things as easy as possible. They'll want you to do that. And also even potentially easing off technology for a little bit. Of course, technology is hugely important because it can make things simpler and easier. But actually, as we can see, more and more people think that technology is having a bad effect on their mental health, on their happiness. And so people are saying they're going to use that. 40% rise in people saying they're going to use less social media. And interestingly, the youngest generation is the one who wants to take time off the most. The Generation Z actually are, I think, 3 times more likely to want to take time off social media than older generations. So if you look at these things, and what are they doing if they're coming off? They're going back to kind of the old-fashioned stuff, the in real life stuff, whether it's film photography or fountain pens and calligraphy, collecting analog watches. If you go into the kind of the trendy East End of London or parts of Berlin or Manchester, Northern Quarter, the cool thing to do is to go to a VHS night in a pub where they set up a creaky old VHS player in the corner showing 80s and 90s movies. Because it's back to an older, safer time. We're not looking forward to the future right now because it looks pretty scary and it's very uncertain. So looking back to that past. So all of this is about comfort, sitting back, looking back to the past a little bit more. And that real life thing. So if you're a company, what can you do? They've got this need. How can you satisfy it? Well, providing a simple, clean, easy, seamless consumer experience. Making your marketing as easy to respond to as possible. Make it, don't put things in the way. Don't make people have to repeat information 2 or 3 times on one service call. And I talked about giving people a choice of platform, which you absolutely need to do, but make sure all of those platforms are interconnected. So, you have a truly omni-channel, seamless customer journey. And do offer people premium options. Do give them the opportunity to make things easier. They won't always take them up, but they like to have them there. And when they have the money, they are going to do that. Whatever service you can offer them, to go the extra mile, they will appreciate it. Anything that saves them time or saves them effort, that make life simpler. You look at a company now like Enjoy, a company set up by the guy who set up the Apple Store, for Steve Jobs, an amazing guy. And he set up this company called Enjoy, and they started off as a personal technology retailer. And what distinguished them is when they deliver the product. So you buy a phone or a tablet from them, the individual staff from the company will come round to your home, deliver it to you in person, and then sit with you for up to 2 hours, talking you through how the product works and how it will work for you as an individual with your individual needs. I mean, that is service. So that sort of thing people will really appreciate. So anything that gives them that sense of comfort. And then finally, community. I talked about the fact that people increasingly are not trusting institutions. We don't trust upwards. We used to trust upwards. People were upstairs looking down on us, looking out for us, but we can't trust up there anymore. Either because we don't think they've got our best interests at heart, or because we think they don't know what to do either, because things are so volatile, whether they're economists or government, whoever. So if you can't trust upwards, you've got to trust somebody. So who do you trust? You trust sideways. You link arms with the people who are going through the same things as you are, your family, your friends, people who share your interests, your work colleagues, your neighbors increasingly. So that's why you're looking for support from a community. More and more people trust communities. Interesting stat, during COVID, to me, one of the most interesting stats I saw, they asked people, they said, what company behaviors would make you more likely to buy from that company in future during the pandemic? The second most important thing to people was, one of the options was that they treat their customers well and they care about their customers. Another was they care about their staff, another was they look after the environment and so on. Caring about the customer came second. People said the thing most likely to drive them towards buying from a company was the way they treated their staff. I mean, that is, talk about linking arms with people who are going through what you're going through. The idea that actually the average citizen, the ordinary citizen, felt they were all in it together with the staff, with customers themselves and so on. So I think this whole idea of community, feeling we're all part of the same community, and we're seeing it across the board. The biggest trend in leisure recently has been competitive leisure, whether that's shuffleboard, axe throwing, whatever it is. We're seeing growth in co-living amongst the young, particularly. Big blocks of flats with shared kitchens and so on, and shared living spaces. We're seeing esports, which is, you'd have thought that surely video gaming would be the most solitary experience. Little kid in their bedroom playing video games, but no, now not only is everybody playing with everybody else on screen in multiplayer games and multiplayer universes, but also now during esports, millions of people literally are watching people online do battle with other people. So even buddy moons. I don't know if anybody watching has had a buddy moon. A buddy moon is when you have a honeymoon and you invite your friends along. So all sorts of things now happening in terms of community and family becoming much more important as well. We're seeing more and more young people. I hope you like your kids because you're going to be seeing a lot more of them. Here we have in Britain, for instance, 30% of 25 to 29-year-olds are now living with their parents. That's almost 1 in 3 living with their parents are likely to be staying there. Neighbourhoods becoming more important as well. We saw it that was supercharged during COVID, but it's remained so. People caring more about their neighbourhoods. Important during a pandemic. Our neighbours were helping us out. We were helping them. But also now more and more of us working from home. So we're getting to know the local neighbourhood, the local shopkeepers, our neighbours and friends and so on. And also the trend of the 15-minute city, making sure that all the facilities are within a 15-minute radius of every home. So all of these things are making the locality more important to people. Any sort of community, we're seeing it as well with kind of social commerce starting to come through. Community. So if you're a brand, you might have a problem, might you? Because what we're saying is people don't trust institutions, and big business is part of those institutions in a lot of people's heads. So what do? What you do is you make people feel that you're not up here looking down on them. You are on the same level as them. How do you do that? How do you make people feel that the customer and the brand and the employees are all on the same level? You get them involved. You get people involved. You get your customers involved. You make sure you get feedback from them and you drive that back towards them. What new products do we want? How's the marketing campaign doing? And then you pass that information back to them. Increasingly, we're seeing people saying they want to co-create with brands. They want to be involved in the innovation process with brands. Not everyone, but a lot more customers are wanting to do that. So get people closely involved. See if you can share a purpose with people as well. It doesn't have to be kind of big P politics, but it could be something, yes, Patagonia will go for that sort of thing and that helps. But Lego don't have a political purpose, but they have a shared purpose of kind of play, this idea of young people and grown-ups playing together, the importance of play. And that can be shared with their customers. Again, they're great on co-creation. And you even get these experiences. I talked about kind of the in real life stuff, the anti-technology stuff that people want. Well, giving them experiences is a great way to bring them on board and make them feel that it's also a kind of in real life experience. So maybe having events where your customers get together. Nike are brilliant at this with the Nike Run and Nike Fitness. So are Lululemon, again, one of the fitness wear brands. People pay thousands of pounds to go on a Lululemon retreat where they're doing yoga with fellow Lululemon buyers. So any of these kinds of things you can do, it's really good to bring people together, get that community together. So there we have it, a whistle-stop tour of what your customer needs are going to be over potentially at least, I'd say, the next 5 years. This sense of uncertainty, the sense of volatility is huge now, and it's not going away. People are going to be nervous about what's going to happen, whether that's technologically, politically, economically, whatever it is. So what are they going to need? They're going to need those needs satisfied, those 3 needs. So if you want to get yourself ahead of the competition, if you want to attract new customers, new consumers, if you want to keep them loyal once you have attracted them, you need to give them a sense of control, to give them choice, personalization, to enable them, to give them advice, comfort, a sense of a smooth customer journey, keep things simple, offer them premium service levels, give them these nice experiences that are outside of technology. Finally, make them feel that they are part of your brand family, that they belong to that you are together, one whole community. If you do that, you can waive your competition. Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you, William. That was so interesting. I mean, I love a bit of alliteration, so that's going to stay with me. But also I find it so interesting, this kind of, I can really relate to this paradoxical kind of tension between technology and your want for personalization and kind of the future, but also this kind of harking and longing for the simple times. I say simple times, but for VHS and kind of those comforts. Really interesting times that we're heading into. So thank you for that.
My pleasure. Fascinating times, interesting times indeed.
Interesting times, exactly. So, all right, for the next part of the session, we will be joined by Simon, Ian, Eve, and Sharon. They bring to the table heaps of experience in leading roles in marketing, customer experience, CRM, and loyalty. They also bring a really interesting array of industry perspectives from the CPG, financial services, entertainment, food and beverage sectors. So, without further ado, hello everyone.
Hello.
Hi. Hello. Hi. Hi, Ian. Hi, Simon. Hi, Eve. Thank you for joining us. I'm sure you enjoyed William's session as much as I did. So let's have some topical conversation following on from that. But before we do, why don't you each tell me a bit about yourself? Let's start with you, Simon.
Thanks very much. So Simon Tepp again, and I've had the experience of working with some incredible global brands over the last 15, 20 years or so. So my background is in customer experience transformation and really trying to put the colleague, the human being, at the center of everything that brands and organizations are doing to bring their products and experiences together. Delighted to be here today. And you're right, William's intro was absolutely fascinating.
Thank you, Simon. All right, Ian, over to you.
Thank you. Career-wise, I've worked in the customer data space for 17 years for some of the biggest B2C brands in the country, from British Airways, where I started my career, through to eBay, where I ran the European CRM and loyalty function, through to Sky Bet and Delivery Hero. I'm currently supporting Domino's in their goal to transition from a pizza business with a website to an e-commerce business where we sell pizza. And from a personal journey perspective, I really fell into CRM and loyalty. I'd call myself more of an analyst. I've always been passionate about data and using that data to solve business problems. But 20 years ago, for me, I didn't understand the value of data in marketing. And when I did, I sort of had an epiphany and saw the light and did a full 180-degree pivot overnight and have really been hooked ever since.
That was a fortuitous epiphany for you then. And lastly, Eve, tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is Eve Kolesova and I'm head of marketing at Henkel. And if Henkel doesn't ring a bell for you, I'm sure you're aware of brands like Loctite, Sellotape, Preach, Got2b, and many others that actually belong to Henkel. Before Henkel, I had experience globally at Nestle and Colgate-Palmolive. So traveled the world a little bit, ended up here in the UK. And I worked in different countries and for different categories. However, I think what's really is important, and to be honest, it's absolutely the same no matter what you're doing is to understand what your customer wants and what is your customer journey. And I think that's why I also found William's session earlier today so insightful in finding those little hooks. How can you engage really with your customer or your consumer down the line?
Yeah, absolutely. I found the point around taking control and how much people can resonate with the opportunity to take control really insightful. I hadn't really kind of clicked on how apt that was. All right, well, lovely to meet you all. Why don't we kick off with your views on what consumer trends should our audience be looking out for in next year and beyond? So, Ian, let's start with you.
Yeah, there's three broad areas that really spring to mind when I think about the rest of the year and going into 2024, and mobile, privacy, and personalization. And so I'll go into each one of those. On mobile, it feels like a bit of a cliche, having mobile as one of the key trends, but it's been at the top of my list for probably the last decade or so. Ever since Apple launched this supercomputer that we have in our pockets, it's fundamentally changed the whole meaning of the phrase digital first. The fact they do have that in their device or in their pocket or on their wrist means, and you can directly talk to that customer exactly where they are. It's totally transformed customer engagement. It's transformed MySpace, but also commerce more broadly. And if you don't have that mindset, that customer first mindset and that mobile first mindset, your competitors are just going to take your customers. On the privacy side of things, with the advent of iOS 14 and the continued implementation of other privacy solutions like email privacy, Apple and now Google as well are sort of increasingly leaving marketers with holes in their ability to understand customer behavior, and that's only going to continue. We're only going to end up with more of these blind spots where we can't stitch different pieces of data together. We live in this world of increasingly complex customer journeys, but our ability as marketers to understand those journeys is becoming increasingly stymied. We need to find ways to turn these signals that we do get with our own first party data into an understanding of that customer mindset. And then on personalization, again, it does feel like a cliche, but it's absolutely critical. It's a given that our customers expect businesses to understand who they are and to tailor offerings to them, and which actually goes in stark contrast to that privacy component. Customers want personalized experiences, but businesses are increasingly making it easier for customers to not give us the data that we need to provide those experiences. And I think those expectations are only going to continue to gather pace and become more challenging to fulfill. So I think many businesses have evolved already from a one size fits all approach to what I would probably call a one size fits some, or many sizes fits many different sums. But I think businesses need to evolve from that one size fits some to bespoke, tailored communications and journeys. And if they don't do that, their marketing efforts will just continue to produce diminishing returns, and whilst their customers just disappear over the horizon.
Yeah, I think one of the key things that we've just heard of is around convenience. And so we absolutely know that the majority of people across any particular market have got that supercomputer in their back pocket, which is the mobile phone. So really foundational things like having easy access, being always on, are going to be really important. And ultimately that gives organizations and customers this control that we've heard about in terms of data. How much data am I willing to share for that value exchange? And what am I going to get back off the back of it? Is it going to lead to more personalization? And if we can't get to personalization, do we get to a level of customization, which allows something to be truly unique to me versus perhaps my neighbor? And therefore, is there a price differential there? But I think a couple of things, my experience, particularly working in different markets and with different brands, is that right now what we're seeing is this authenticity with customers. And maybe William talked about it a bit earlier on when he talked about community. If we think back to the pandemic, what we saw was a number of organizations really having, in an interesting way, quite a successful business operating model during the pandemic, because they were with the customers. They were adapting their policies, their procedures. They were being responsive, they were being relevant to customers. They were giving them more time to perhaps, pay their loans. They were being much more empathetic about how do they make sure products and services are coming to them. And you've really saw this real coming together of brands and organizations that were with their customer base. And actually kind of you saw that with colleagues as well. And again, William referenced it earlier. And I think that real sense of, knowing your customers, being with them, talking with them rather than at them is going to be really important. And therefore, I think it does lend itself to this element of, how do organizations in the future make sure that, they're taking care of their employees, their culture is really centered, so that they can become, as one with customers. And that's going to be, really important in the years to come.
Yeah, absolutely. So based off these kind of ever evolving customer needs, the speed that we need to move at to support them, what, and Eve, I'm going to ask you this, what technology and talent do we think brands need to kind of keep up with this?
That's a very, very interesting question. And I don't think there's a one single answer for a brand.
It'd be too easy.
That would be too easy. I think, to be honest, as a marketeer, and I'm sure you're also doing it, but and it's a little bit of a cliche conversational topic now, but the use of AI and the debate on how do you use the debate, how do you use the AI in your benefit, but also how do you keep producing pieces of work that are original and authentic. And the way I see it, and the way I'm also talking about this to my team, is that I'm saying, remember when you were at school, and remember for those people who are a little bit older, we didn't used to have those little calculator machines, and then all of a sudden we all got them. And I remember my teachers, they were telling me, you're not allowed to use them, and you were supposed to do everything in your head. And then all of a sudden they said, oh no, actually you can use it, but you can only use it in a way to help you projects, or to help to process information, or to maybe, I don't know, improve the agility or improve the speed around the project that you're working at. And that's exactly how I see AIs and all of this machine learning basically can help to improve, to speed up, to make your job. But ultimately, it will still be up to great human minds to then decide how do you use this piece of information, this piece of copy, text, image, and then it's up to us to decide on a strategy for our brands, for our categories, how to drive business growth. And I don't think it's going to be ever possible to replace it by 100%, but definitely it's something to consider and to get ahead of the game on it.
Yeah. Simon, I see you nodding.
Yeah, I think Eve is absolutely spot on. I think you've got a huge amount of data now, which we can really convert that into insight, and we can bring all of that with AI, with machine learning, all the technology, and let's not beat around the bush. The emergence of AI, the increasing proliferation of how it's really coming into all of our daily lives is going to completely change the landscape. But I still think we're a number of years off, 5, 10, who knows, where AI will completely dominate. So you do need those human beings to really make sure that ultimately you can take all that insights and data, and then you can really personalize or customize or be truly empathetic with your customers. So you do need that data, you do need those experiences, you do need the insights, but then you need those colleagues. And ultimately, again, William talked about it, Ian's talked about it, you need to co-create. There's no point having great talent in your organization who are ultimately, being very focused on a process or procedure. You need that level of empowerment. Colleagues need to feel that they have the backing of the organization, that if they're doing the right thing for the customer, and that's right for them in that moment of time, then that they've got that empowerment to do, and the support of the organization. And I think that's where, as Eve talks about, you've really got this alchemy of those two things coming together. But it's very uncertain and it's very uncharted. And all the things that we talked about, and certainly William talked about control for the customer, perhaps means that organizations maybe need to lose a little bit of control to allow their colleagues and their employees really to unlock those true experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sharon, welcome.
Hi.
We're just having a discussion around kind of technology and talent and what we all think we might need to keep up with the ever-changing consumer. I'm sure you've got some thoughts on that as well.
Yes, so I think in the context of this, it's about getting the right talent together. So understanding the skill sets that you might need and then going to the market to see who has those skill sets. So sometimes, depending on which market you're in, or if you're doing a centralized approach out of a hub, you need to determine if you actually have those skill sets and they're available to hire. In the case that you might need to look further afield, you might need to outsource. So you might have talent that's in-house and then you outsource certain capabilities. And from a tools perspective, it's again understanding the full gamut of your tools and your platforms that you have access to, but then also bringing in tools or commissioning tools that might need to be created or bought so that you can deliver fully against the briefs that you have. So I'd say it's a combination of determining, do you have the right talent? Do you need to outsource? And tools, do you need off the shelf, or can you build or find them in the marketplace?
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll stay with you, Sharon. In the past, what are, and I'm sure everyone could learn from this, some of the biggest successes you've had off the back of the customer experience strategy that you've implemented? So any examples that you've got right now or previous projects that you've been involved in?
So where I've seen a lot of success in the past is where you have access to all of the data that you need to make the decisions. And I think that's prevalent in an AI world as well, so that you can determine what messages to send at the right time and to whom. And where I've seen success is when all of that data has been collated and is being put into one central repository, and then that data can be queried using a BigQuery tool, and then put back out into the platform so that messages can be sent correctly. And also where I've seen it work excellently is where you use creative, and certainly the companies I've worked with before, like Disney, and also previously when I was in agencies, the creative really makes a huge impact. And if you can combine that with a very intelligent targeting and data analysis, you've got a winning formula.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ian, you're nodding this time, so I'm going to go over to you. If you can maybe give us a couple of examples as well. Oh, you're on mute, which was very respectful to Sharon previously, but we'll need that off.
Apologies. I can give you an example of one in the past and something we're working on at the moment. So at eBay, all of our transactional communications had historically been built by functional product teams, and they were all developed in isolation, with each product team building their own communications with no sense of like the bigger customer picture or the customer journey. What we did then was we built a cross-functional team that encompassed the full spectrum of marketing strategy, operations, analytics, insight, and product, with the combined objective of driving conversion across that whole space. So for the first time, we pulled together an overarching transactional strategy, putting the customer at the heart, with the aim to understand what the customer was thinking and, importantly, what they were feeling at each stage. You know, what was their needs and how could we help them? And it led to us identifying some significant gaps in our communications where we just weren't helping meet customers' needs. And even worse, some examples where we were instilling exactly the opposite feeling that we wanted customers to feel. And so that team for me, it's 10 years ago now, but it set a benchmark for collaboration that I've measured all future CRM teams against. And the results spoke for themselves. In 2 years, they delivered over 1 billion with a B of incremental sales. Wow. by focusing on that. And then at Domino's, what we're doing at the moment, so we're at the start of a journey. So we understand that not all customers are equal.
Mm.
You know, picture the difference between the family with 2 young noisy kids who've had a long hard week and just can't be bothered cooking, versus the group of lads who are excited about, you know, the first round of Champions League matches we just had this week, or the young couple who've got a special date night watching Netflix, right? All of those groups and customers have very different needs, both product wise, but also from a consideration and purchase cycle. And so we're looking at how can we evaluate which of those occasions customers are looking to purchase for, and then how can we establish what the consideration and purchase cycles are, and then talk to customers differently depending on where they fit. So watch this space.
Yeah, fabulous. I'm sure we will. And Eve, why don't you round us out with an example as well?
I want to talk probably about more emotional part of a consumer customer journey, which for me was a little bit of an eye-opening in my current category, which is around DIY and home improvement. And again, I'm probably also building the point of Sharon and Ian. It's really important to get this data, because without really this data, you will never understand the emotional elements of that. But what we did figure out is that we mapped out, like from let's say, from an idea in a consumer head that I want to do something around my house, to the actual moment when this DIY job or this repair or maybe building or construction thing is happening actually in your house. And what we found out is that normally when in people's heads spark this idea, or let's say I want to panel my wall, and they feel very, very emotionally engaged and excited, and they feel like I can do it. I can definitely do it. I watched on Instagram and it's super easy, and there's a local B&Q store, so I'm just going to go and buy it. And they're all like, yeah, I can do it. And then they're on their high, and then they go to the store, and that was an eye-opening moment for us. They go to the shelf and they're like, oh my God, I can do it. I don't even know which product to choose, and it's so confusing. And then you go basically down the slide, oh my God. If
you're describing my current scenario, I'm literally paneling my bedroom wall.
There you go.
I started so excited, and now I'm like, actually, do I know how to do it? YouTube made it seem so easy.
Exactly. And then at this point, hopefully, and at this point, we're sort of lucky if people are choosing our products, or even if they're choosing the right products. But we know that, if you got a cartridge and you got some super glue, or you got a glue, then many people, they actually forget to get a cartridge gun, or all of a sudden they realize that it was a wrong color, or it was a wrong material, or it was a wrong surface. So at this point, they are sort of they're low on the emotional element, but they're still not too low. But they were hitting the bottom point when, like you, Georgia, they're in front of their wall, they're trying to panel out. And at this point, it's like, oh my God, that's a totally wrong product that I bought, and I spent all this money, and I have to go back to B&Q. And for us, the main challenge now at Henkel is to help our consumers at the point where at the shelf, or if they're choosing through the digital experience, to choose the right products, to make sure that it's super smooth from the point when it's sparked in your mind to the actual complete finish of your DIY project at the house. And it's why getting this emotional understanding and emotional engagement of your customer is so important as well.
Yeah. Well, I am 100% confident you'll have success in that, because you've so perfectly described my DIY journey to date in my new house. Now we've got a couple of minutes, so Simon, I won't leave you out. Give us an example as well.
I think one of the biggest things that I've seen organizations do, particularly one big financial services organization, is make sure that the demand that they're getting from customers can be matched with the skill set, the personality, the ability for their colleagues to meet their customer needs in a very emotional way, as we've just been hearing about. So again, taking elements of machine learning, some predictive AI, and trying to, you know, match customers to individuals who perhaps have gone through the same experiences, who can really understand and tailor, perhaps customize a little bit of the journey to that particular scenario. So you think about if a customer has just, you know, purchased a home, for example, and they're just going through the early stages, perhaps they're going through some renovation, you know, perhaps they don't know where to start in terms of insurance cover for their home. And ultimately, you know, could you match that with a colleague who's perhaps been on the journey maybe 5 years previous? And so you get that real personal sense of engagement, that you're working together, that the organization is on your side, and you get that real trust and authenticity. And certainly one of the large organizations that I've worked with in the past, what we were able to do was to implement that, so that if customers were perhaps feeling a little bit vulnerable, that actually you'd connect them with somebody who was, you know, really emotionally intelligent, could really engage them, could offer a little bit more worth of life experience, maybe not advice, but some life experience. And I think that using the technology is a really big opportunity. And off the back of doing that, you see things like NPS increased by about 25 to 35% just on matching those personality types or those experiences. And you also see things like purchasing or income growth rise by about 50 to 60%. So there's a real long-term investment there. It isn't just like a Tinder for corporate organizations. There's real value in doing this.
Fabulous. I love it when we end on a note comparing to Tinder. Thank you so much, everyone, for all of your time. I, for one, thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, and I hope that everybody watching did as well. So that concludes our event for the day. Thank you to everybody that took time out of their day to join us and to listen to our wonderful experts. I hope you found it as insightful as I did, and I look forward to seeing you at the next one.